1, 2, 3, 4.
And hello there, all you Stay Tuners. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo back again for our weekly MMA, boxing, fight episode, whatever you want to call it. Also, this is our anniversary eve episode. Tomorrow will be 1 year that we've been on the Podbean network, and for the most part, kept everything pretty consistent. Started off with one episode a week. Now we're up to two, with shoulders coming on to the Stay Tuned Sports family. Not sure what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, you know, like we always talk to you guys about, we have full-time jobs, we have families. You know, he has a baseball game with his son, possibly tomorrow, depending on the weather. So he may or may not be on, but still lots to talk about tomorrow. But that's tomorrow. Let's talk about today. Before we get into the show, head over to Twitter. Follow my personal one at Jimbo ST Sports, and then follow the show at ST Sports Podcast. Head over to our YouTube channel. We got pretty much all the episodes, our past episodes on there. Subscribe there. Head over to our Facebook, like and share, and do all that wonderful social media stuff that will help us get bigger and stronger and be able to put better product out there for you guys. And we actually have a Teespring account now as well. I put one t-shirt out there. I was pretty much just messing around with it, so nothing great. It's one of our older logos that our good friend King created for us. If you want to buy that shirt, that's fine. I have no objections to that. But we do have some plans to have new logos made up, hopefully soon, and then really put some different t-shirts out there, and mugs and iPhone cases and all that type of merchandise stuff. So yeah, this coming year is definitely going to be a big step for Stay Tuned Sports. That's where me and Shoulders are hoping, and need your guys' help building it. So enough of that. Enough of our advertising of our stuff. But let's just jump right into the show. Last week we had the UFC fight night, La Quinta versus Cowboy. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, because there's some stories came out of that fight night. It really wasn't the greatest fight card. I was a little disappointed with it. I thought it would have been a lot more entertaining, maybe some knockouts, a little bit more higher paced fights. But what I want to start off with is became official. I think it was last week I was talking about the potential rematch between Daniel Cromier and Miocic because of Brock Lesnar retiring. So it officially became a rematch. They're going to be fighting in August at UFC 241. You know, a lot of people don't think Miocic deserves it, but my thing is I think he does deserve it, even before the Brock Lesnar potential super fight there, because he defended the belt 3 times, and I'm pretty sure I said this last week too. And the way Cromier set up that knockout, it wasn't like Miocic was sloppy or anything. It was just a good setup by Cromier. It was a good fight between both of them. I know it was a knockout in the first round, but you know, it wasn't one-sided. It wasn't lopsided or anything like that. It's just, you know, a smart way that Cromier set up everything and ended up catching him. And Miocic for a while was campaigning for this rematch, and After Cromier knocked Miocic out, that's when Lesnar came in and did a whole, WWE pushed him and tried to sell fight, and that's what kind of started to get going. But I'll tell you what, I'm happier that this fight's going on compared to Lesnar fight. I think the Lesnar fight would have been either a just demolition of Lesnar, because he hasn't fought in 2-3 years, or whatever it was. It hasn't won a legitimate fight in 5 years, and you got Cromier, who's active. He's fought 2 or 3 times within the past year. He's training every day, so he's always in shape for a fight. And as much as Lesnar is in shape for wrestling, WWE, it's totally different as far as training. I mean, you're not bashing wrestling, because I do like watching wrestling every now and then. I have nothing against them. I have a lot of respect for them because it is very physical. But you're practicing like fake punches and stuff like that, whereas these guys are going 12, 15 hours a day training and practicing. So I think that match would have been very bad for Lesnar. I mean, for UFC, it would have made him a crap load of money just because it's Lesnar's name. How he started the little feud between Cromier in the ring there and all that stuff. But I think this fight will be a good fight. I think Miocic hopefully isn't going to be too scared now, as far as like too timid as far as trying things, worrying about that setup that he did there, as far as Cromier kind of getting underneath his chin there and just slipped the hook in there and knocked him out. But Cromier, he's very confident with this fight. Some of the quotes I saw, he said that he doesn't know if he could top how he beat him the last time, just because of how difficult that was to set up. He does think he's a better mixed martial artist than Miocic, which, I mean, I think it's fairly equal. I think this could be if Cromier was a little younger, because he's talked about only doing the Miocic fight and possibly a John Jones fight, and then retiring, because he originally wanted to retire back in March. And when John Jones came out of the suspension and everything like that, and then the Miocic bout came about, I guess kind of relit a fire a little bit underneath Cromier's in his belly. But and we'll get to the whole Cromier Jones thing, because the article that I was reading on, I believe it was like ESPN or something like that, talked about the Miocic rematch coming up, plus the John Jones thing. And financially, Cromier is set. He doesn't need the John Jones fight. It's more of, and he said himself, he wants to beat John Jones, just to kind of, that little setback that has, the past 2 fights. He wants to beat John Jones. Now, let's just say if he does beat Jones, does that make him better than Jones? No, because he's 1-2 against him. Now if he was 2-1, yeah, maybe. But Cromier, he said he definitely would want to fight him down at 205, because he basically wants the same scenario of the past 2 fights against Jones. He doesn't want the deck stacked in his favor. His whole life he overcame odds. And this is, I'm kind of paraphrasing some of these quotes that I found him talking about the potential John Jones fight. And I hope, for Cromier's sake, he's not looking past Miocic towards a John Jones fight either, because, again, Miocic is not no average fighter. I mean, he's a good fighter, There's a reason why he was a champ. There's a reason why he defended that belt 3 times. Now, if Miocic beats Cromier, I don't think the John Jones fight happens. I think they would want, especially if this is another quick knockout or a close decision, I think UFC will talk Cromier into a third rubber match between Miocic, and then whatever happens there, he retires then. Because I mean, he is getting older. He's 40 years old or so. This is not a old man sport. This is a young man sport. And we'll get to it, but I mean, look at Anderson Silva. Dominated that division in UFC for years. And now he's ranked, I think I just saw, because I wrote up a article for BellyUpSports.com previewing the UFC fights this week. He's ranked 14th. He was considered the greatest welterweight champion for years. And I think out of his past 6 fights, Anderson Silva's past 6 fights, he's 1-6. So one of the greatest of all time may have missed his chance to retire on top. Hopefully for Cromier, if he loses to Miocic and they do the rubber match and he beats him, hopefully he retires right there, rides off into the sunset as the champion, doesn't stick around too long like a BJ Penn. I mean, he's another one that's fighting this weekend, but he's on a prelim card, because unfortunately these fighters don't know when to retire, so hopefully, like I said, I'd rather see a Miocic rubber match than see Cromier fight Jones, because knowing Jones, you just don't know what Jones is going to show up. Is he going to test positive, or is he actually going to take this seriously and show up? Which, if he tests positive, then those past 3 months or so that Cromier trained for was for nothing. So moving on, we had the UFC fight night last weekend between Al Quinta versus Cowboy Cerrone, and like I said at the top of the show, I was a little disappointed overall with the fights. There was only maybe 2 or 3 good fights out of the whole card, and the La Quinta Cowboy fight was very entertaining. It was the best one out there. Like every Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, I sit down and start putting some notes together of what I'm going to talk about for the Thursday show, and I went back through the card, and I'm just like, I remember that was kind of slow and boring. I mean, it got to a point, like, I know I told you guys I'd be live tweeting and everything, but it got to a point where I kind of stopped paying attention to what was going on, because it was just blah, and but I'll tell you what, that La Quinta Cowboy fight, that was definitely fight at night. I'm not sure if they got the award for that or not, but Al Quinta, man, I mean, yeah, Cowboy won by decision, but Al Quinta could take some shots. He gained a lot of respect from me. I knew he was a tough opponent for a Cowboy going in, but I mean, the leg kicks that Cowboy was landing, and then the head kick that Cowboy put on him, that put him on his butt, I thought that was the end of the match. I thought he was going to put him away and didn't, and Cowboy went on to win by decision, like I said. And I like how he's the past 2 fights or so, he's brought his kid into the ring, and even I think this one, I caught like the tail end of it. It sounded like he was about to curse, and it just stopped because the baby was right there. It was only a few months old baby, and had the earmuffs on, so a loud crowd and everything like that wouldn't have heard him. But I'm telling you what, man, Cowboy, he just seems like just a genuine dude, you know. And some of the awards I saw that he has, like the records that he has 17 Fight of the Night honors, you know, like awards. 17. That's the most in UFC history. That means in 17 fights, even if he fights, let's just say 3 months or 3 fights a year, in 5 years, he's got 17 awards. I mean, I know that one year he fought like 5 or 6 times in a year, but I mean, damn. I mean, he's an entertaining fighter, and it just seems like now he's starting to put it all together. And when they interviewed him post-fight, he called out for a title shot, which I said last week I think he deserves it. And even my my article previewing last week's fights, I said that as well. I think he deserves it. I mean, this is, 3 fights in a row, or 2 or 3 fights in a row, and no gray area of did he win or didn't he win. You know, he made it obvious that he was the winner. But then he dropped a surprise call out in a way, because I didn't see this coming. He called Conor McGregor back out. If you guys don't know, back in, I want to say it was January or February, the rumor came out that UFC was trying to set up a Conor McGregor Cowboy Cerrone fight, which I was all for. I wanted it because of the lead up, the talk between the two. I mean, these two guys are they're up there with the Diaz brothers as far as trash talking. And not like, I mean, I know Conor Habib's excuse me. I know Conor and Habib's been having their very ugly feud with each other, but I think with Cowboy and Conor, it would be a lot more respectful. Probably taking shots at each other's alcoholic drink of favor, like with Cowboy with liking Budweiser, and Conor obviously with his whiskey. And Cowboy did say in the ring, let's do this July, which July is always the international fight week for the UFC. And originally, I think they were trying to get that fight for that weekend. It was just that Conor wanted the main event because it's Conor McGregor, and look at me, and I bring the money, and blah blah. I've said plenty of times on the show, I'm a Conor fan. I'm over him. I'm getting tired of these antics. I'm starting to actually agree with some non-Conor fans that, what have you done for me lately? You haven't won since 2016, I think it might have been. He's fought 3 times since then. And now, I mean, granted, I understand, you made a crap load of money with the Floyd Mayweather fight. Your whiskey just hit, and this surprised me, $1 billion in sales for your whiskey. I mean, I don't even think it's been out a year, and that's pretty impressive. I mean, it's good. I'd still rather my Jameson, but if I was in the mood for it, I'd pick it up. So, I mean, he obviously is set and doesn't need the money. Dana White definitely says that this fight between those two makes sense. Conor has a couple different options, but he even said he doesn't have to fight if he doesn't want to. He's financially set. And it sounds like his grandkids are financially set for how much money. Which, kudos to Conor. I don't know if you guys seen that documentary on Netflix a few months back about Conor and where he's came from, and to go from rags to riches the way he did, I mean, hats off to you, because, I mean, let's all be honest. If you could do it, I bet you would. If I could make $1 million and quit my full-time job, dude, I'd be all over that. I'm still hoping that this fight comes together, though, because, like I said, I think taking the trash talk out of it, I think it'd be an interesting fight, because obviously Conor does have knockout power. He's very good at boxing, unorthodox kicks, and then you got Cowboy, who obviously, if you watch his past couple fights, very hard leg kicks, and his striking is getting a lot better. Gets you down to the ground, could submit you, and we all know that's Conor's weakness, unless he's been working on that the past year or two. So I think this would be an entertaining fight. Not sure who's all on the July cards for the fight night, or for the fight international week, if there's anybody on the cards yet, but that makes the most sense to me, is to put a big fight like this on that card. And obviously they always stack that card and the New Year's Eve weekend card as well. So, we'll see within the next few weeks if this comes together or not. I know I've been seeing a lot that Conor's been training very hard, wants to get back into it. He's always hungry for that next fight. So speaking of next fights, before we go, we're gonna talk a little UFC 237 this weekend. It's actually, I jinxed it last weekend, so we'll see if I do it again this weekend, but this card actually looks pretty entertaining. Some interesting fights. You got Jose Aldo, Anderson Silva's on there, and then the main event is Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. Which, just looking at it now, just dawned on me. Nothing against Rose and Jessica, but they're main eventing over two of the greatest of all time to be in UFC, in Anderson Silva and Jose Aldo. If you go over to BellyUpSports.com and read my article, I talk about how Anderson Silva, how far he has fallen. Jose Aldo, he's on I believe it was a 2-fight win streak after losing his belt to Max Holloway. So, it's very weird in a way, but a good weird. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of change. So to start off the main card, we have a lightweight fight between Francisco Trinaldo versus Carlos Ferreira. When I was looking them up, the stats and everything, and who I want to pick and stuff like that, this should be a good fight. They're very evenly matched in every stat out there, as far as knockout wins, submissions, and stuff like that. But I think for the first fight, I'm going to go with Ferreira with a decision, though, because of the stats being that close. I'm just hoping it's not like a filling out process for 3 rounds and very slow and boring. But after that fight, we have a welterweight fight between Thiago Alves and Laureano Starolopi. First off, if I butcher your name, I'm sorry. I was trying to look up how to say his name and stuff like that, but Thiago Alves, he's been around a while. I'm going to go with Laureano, just because Alves seems like he can't put enough big name fights together to have a chance at a title shot. I mean, I know, a couple years ago he was up there, but ever since then you don't really hear of him. He does have knockout power, but he is older, so did he lose a little bit of that strength? And Saturday night, we'll see how that goes for him and what happens after that fight. Then after that, we have a featherweight bout between Jose Aldo and Alexander Volkanovski. Now, Jose is obviously one of the great featherweight fighters ever to come out of WEC. But I think this is another case of Father Time catching up to him too. I mean, he's not on no 5-fight losing streak or 1-8 in his last fights, but I mean, he is on a 2-fight win streak. But I don't think he could put a championship run together. I think it's going to stop here, and I think Alexander's going to knock him out. I mean, we all saw the Conor knockout, so it is possible. I'm just curious that if Jose does get knocked out, what happens to him after this fight? Is he the vaunted gatekeeper for the belt if he sticks around? Because, I mean, like I said, he's still competitive, but I don't know if he's competitive enough to win a belt. So, like I said, we'll see again Saturday. I may be wrong. I will not be surprised if Jose wins, but I just think Alexander is going to pull this one off and move on to the next fight, whether it be a number one contender type fight, because Jose is the number one seeded contender right now for the belt. I think Alexander was like 4th or 5th, so I mean, he could definitely move up in that move up into that one spot. So then after that, we have another great fighting: Anderson Silva versus Jared Cannonier. Now, everybody obviously knows the story on Anderson Silva. Anybody that's ever watched UFC or I'm not sure if he was ever in the Pride days, because I started following UFC after they bought Pride. So Anderson, I think, just beat Chris Lieben. So let's put it that way. That's how far back he's fought. So, but Jared Cannonier is an up-and-comer. Unfortunately, as much as I want to root for Anderson, I think Jared's going to pull this out. Anderson hasn't won a fight in 4 fights or so, and he's 1-6 in his last 7. I just think it's time for him to hang it up, and I think if he loses this fight, even by decision, I kind of hope Dana sits down with him and talks him into retirement. I mean, I know Anderson said last time he signed his new contract that he's going to fulfill it, then retire. He's done enough for UFC that if there's still 2 fights on his contract, UFC should just be like, here's the money for your 2 fights. Just retire. We'll give you a position somewhere in UFC. Maybe you can help the young talent or whatnot. Because, I mean, he is a very respectable fighter. I think one of his biggest rivalries that he'll be known for is the Chael Sonnen rivalry. That was probably the first time I ever saw Anderson Silva trash talk in a way. And then right after, I think it was the second one, him inviting Chael over for a cookout, for a picnic. I mean, that's just how he is. He's very respectful. And I know earlier on, me getting into UFC, watching him, I didn't like him for some reason. Just, the cockiness, I guess maybe it was. But as he got older, he grew on me. And, as much, like I said, I want to root for him, I just don't think he's going to be able to pull this fight off. I will actually be very surprised if he does. So I think Jared is going to win this one. Would not be surprised if it's a knockout. So then moving on to the main event, the Women's Strawweight Championship, Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. I'm glad that Rose isn't fighting Joanna. I don't think she, and like I said in my article, I don't think she deserved the rematch the way she got knocked out. But when I was looking at Jessica Andrade, how she wins fights and stuff, I'm telling you, this is going to be a tough opponent for Rose. Jessica could knock people out, could submit her, won by decision, so she could go to distance. Now, I'm not sure how many 5-round fights she's done, but I think the best way Jessica could beat Rose right now is by standing, because Rose is very good with submissions on the ground. And I think if Rose gets her down to the ground, one, it'll tire Jessica out, and that seems to be Rose's comfort zone. Now, yes, she did knock Joanna out, but I think with a tough opponent like this, I think you gotta go to your comfort zone, figure out a way to get her down to the ground, and try to submit her. Unfortunately, I think I gotta go with Jessica, just because she could beat her anyway. And not saying Rose is a one-trick pony, because she's not, but I think Jessica pulls this out, possibly by decision. So those are my picks for this week. We will see how well I do, which I probably won't do that well. But that's going to be it for this week, I believe. Like I said, head over to Twitter. Follow me at Jimbo ST Sports. Follow the show at ST Sports Podcast. Head to our Facebook. I'm going to post some of the stories I talked about today, with the Cromier thing and stuff like that. Head over to Teespring. Look up Stay Tuned Sports. We have like our own little store there or whatever. And if you want to get one of our t-shirts there, you can get it there. Head over to YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And head over to bellyupsports.com. Give one of my articles a read about UFC 237. Look at some of the other articles, because there's plenty of other writers there that are 20 times better than me. I'm just happy that they actually give me a forum to spew my stuff out, if you want to call it that. But other than that, I will be back tomorrow with you guys. This is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.